Okay, I'll call this Emergency Services Committee meeting to order, and I'll let Rob, you can.
That Emergency Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region hire a summer student for 2017 at the request of Jared Steek.
A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Jackson, second by Mayor. Oh, was Councillor Olmsted. I'm sorry.
When Council approved the employment bylaw, it included an org chart that contains all of our staff, and we included summer students. There was not an entry for fire to have a summer student. They were approached by a particular individual who's pursuing a career and would like to get some volunteer hours within the service here in Whitewater Region. I suggested to the Deputy Fire Chief and the Chief, who unfortunately aren't here tonight, to bring forward a report to Council for Council to decide. All our other summer students, as I said, are in the org chart. The costs associated with equipping this person, I'm told, will be minimal in terms of the safety requirements, and the person, just like all our students, would be required to have the necessary training, so the training will be required before they can attend a fire scene. That's the information that I have available to myself.
Councillor Jackson.
I think it's a great opportunity to allow for students to pursue their career. It is very difficult to get into the fire services for most young individuals, and certainly if we can, as a municipality, provide the ability for these people, as long as it's strict, and obviously they know that they can't fight unless there's training involved to firefight on behalf of the township. But I think to be involved as a summer student, it opens up quite a number of doors, and certainly for the future, I would recommend it as well. I mean, I think Jared Stay will be a great addition as a summer student for this position. So it's great. Great idea. Great initiative. Like to see that.
And can I just get some clarification? Like, is this a full-time summer student position?
No, so it's not a student that would be assisting in the office or anything of that nature. It's somebody who's interested in fire operations. So they would be mentored by another firefighter and be an observer for emergency services when they would occur. So it would be from that standpoint. So it's somebody who's looking to get some kind of on the ground experience with limitations because of the nature of it. As you know, we're going to be doing a fire master plan that will look at all the aspects of the fire service. I'm told that we haven't recruited. Usually new members are kind of word of mouth, but that's something that I think we need to look at. And then part of that would also be how we bring in people of this nature for kind of summer. It's a good way of bringing people in. They're called different things. Sometimes they're called recruits or junior firefighters, but there are ways of trying to ensure that we have some of that succession management with the ranks to have sufficient volunteer firefighters.
Yeah, well, with that clarification, I don't have a problem. I was just kind of confused on what the duties and responsibilities were going to be. So everybody's heard the motion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Motion's carried. And that is the end of the Emergency Services Committee meeting. Quick and sweet.
Zero, 4-1. 4-1. Marshall.
Cobden Wastewater Update Staff Report.
That Environmental Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the status report prepared by JP2G Consultants, Inc. for the Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrade.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Mayor Johnson, Councillor Jackson. Any questions? Steve?
Just a little update on where we are. We have had a Part 2 order request submitted to the Ministry of the Environment on the environmental study report, and tomorrow we are submitting our response to that Part 2 order, and I'm hoping that it doesn't tie up the project too long. It could take a couple of months to a year. I'm hoping that doesn't occur, but it starts a legal process with the approvals branch in Toronto, and so we've already had correspondence with them, and we're submitting tomorrow our response to the ministry.
Just one point, there will be a letter on the next meeting that we just received. Mayor Johnson was copied on it from the Minister of Environment in response to MPP Yakubuski's letter regarding Muskrat Lake. And the letter speaks to the provincial government's commitment to the lake in terms of funding, one being this actual capital project, but also the important role of the Muskrat Watershed Council. So that letter will be on the next agenda, and it was in response to the letter from the MPP, so coming from the Minister of the Environment.
Any other questions for Steve? Councillor Jackson.
And I know you said it could be up to a year, and I know we have probably a year, I don't want to say grace, but in the timelines for the project to continue, there was some buffering, but that's pushing it. It's unfortunate that this Part 2 order was filed. It's unfortunate because it could cause drastic implications to the municipality. $9 million is not to be sneezed at, and it's very disappointing to see this Part 2 order when every effort was given to the individual by our consultants to answer any questions and concerns. I'm not impressed.
Mayor Johnson.
I agree with Councillor Jackson. I honestly believe that the process is not understood well enough, and we have covered all our bases that we had to cover, and it took a lot of negotiations with different entities to move forward. And we, at this point, look, I can't say we, but at this point, personally, and the letter from the Mr. Gray, would lead me to think that there is movement forward on both issues, the lake and the sewer plant, for the future, because we have provided the information to their scientists that was required, and so on and so forth. And I believe that we have done our due diligence in spades, in actual fact. So, excuse me, if in fact this goes over the deadline, we lose the funding, that decision would then have to be made early, announced by who and what the system is that caused it to fail, and we would have to abandon. We would have terrible costs in economic development, and so we will definitely, it's a public system, and we will move forward. in or whatever we have to, but we can't have 1,000 people paying $9 million. It's just is not gonna happen.
Steve?
Thank you, Chair. I had some correspondence with the province about extending funding. We would have to put an application in, of course. There's no guarantees. I'm confident that the Part 2 order request for a bump up in the EA won't go anywhere, but what it will do is cost us time, maybe a construction season, more money, and more phosphorus loading into the lake. Every day that goes by that we're not improving that sewage plant is just more loading.
Well, can we call a vote, please? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Okay, we're doing the servicing agreement.
That Environmental Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to enter into a servicing agreement with Automotive Materials Stewardship, AMS, for process and disposal of cost recovery of automotive hazardous materials collected at planned municipal hazardous waste events.
Seconder and a mover, Kathy Rager and Al Johnson. Steve.
Thank you, Chair. So since we started doing the hazardous waste events, we've been doing it for quite a number of years. We went into a servicing agreement with Stewardship Ontario, and by doing so, we could get funding back for all of the hazardous waste that we collected at our events, and it covers upwards of half the cost. So since those days of just having Stewardship Ontario, we've since entered into another agreement almost identical to this one with Product Care Association for paints and coatings. So in other words, if we wanted to continue getting funding, we had to go into a servicing agreement. And this one is basically the exact same premise, but this is for specifically for antifreeze and used oil and oil filters. So Stewardship Ontario is just sort of pushing this out to other identities, but in order to receive that funding every year, we have to enter into an agreement.
So, can I bring this to a vote? All in favor? Carried. Okay.
Okay, we'll bring the Roads Property and Protection to order. So we have a motion here, the MTO replacement of structural culverts on Highway 17. There was a report of the Highway 17 culvert replacement project and the attachment Highway 17 culvert replacement project. So the recommendation, is that Roads Property and Protection Services receive this report for information services. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McLaughlin moved and second by Councillor Mackay. Any discussion?
Sorry, I forgot about this one. I'm going to declare pecuniary interest on this as we did receive a call that they may want to use part of a property that I own to do a detour. So I'm going to
Very well.
declare on that.
Yeah, thank you. That's noted. Can we use your mic, please, Mayor?
I probably should claim on this one too, because BEI does the maintenance contract, and if this is not going to tender, then it will fall under them to do the culvert, so I'm gonna claim also.
When in doubt, bow out. Right? Okay. Any discussions? Is there anything that...
It's really to just bring council up to date on this. One is very close to Foresters Falls Road, and the other one is further down, closer to Haley. The county is adamant that full closures of the road aren't great, but the alternatives are lane reductions for up to 2 seasons. So staff were in the meeting, including Randy and Steve and myself, and it's just to bring council up to date as we go forward. But these, yes, we would be impacted, but the county is also on this file. So just to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin?
So there, I get from what Robert's saying, there would not be any detours then? Is that what you're saying? It would be like a half closure?
They're looking at potential options, and the county was very forceful to say, you can't close Foresters Falls Road. I did go home and ask a civilian, would you prefer lane closures for 18 months or a detour for 12 days? And the response I had was, are you crazy? Lane closures for 18 months? So I'm not sure. So I think some of that discussion needs to happen. I think the county was really adamant about full detours and not having that occur, but the alternative is forced lane closures for up to 2 construction seasons. So there's a number of impacts. They're really just doing some technical review at this point, and we'll be coming back to staff at a later date.
Councillor McLaughlin?
I'll probably leave my discussion. Will this be coming forward again?
Once there's additional slides and the options have been outlined, we will bring that information back to council. But again, we're not the deciding authority here. It's the MTO and the county, but we are thankfully involved in some of the early discussions.
I was going to say, do we not own some of the roads? That would be the detour?
Yes,
Okay.
but we're dealing with the highway here and Foresters Falls Road.
Okay.
But yes, there is an acknowledgement that the municipal roads aren't constructed in such a way to handle heavy traffic. Yeah, Randy?
Yeah, there was a comment about detouring traffic up Stopa Road and down Beam Line, and I said that won't handle highway traffic. I said unless you want to bring those roads up to a standard that will work, and they found that rather funny.
I was going to say, because I've been on Beam Line and I would hate to see 2 tractor trailers meet. I don't think it can happen. Beam Line is a very narrow road, to my recollection, because one day I was in there.
Councillor Jackson?
Well, they say that first off, that they're not interested in it. It's surprising how sometimes they change their mind, because the cost for going to 1 lane over 18-month period is way more than upgrading those roads. So keep on pushing for them to upgrade those roads.
Great. Okay. Any other discussion? I'll call for a vote then. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Any against? None? Okay, item number B, Renfrew County 2017 road construction in Whitewater Region. I have a recommendation that the Roads, Property and Protection Committee receive this report for information purposes. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion? And Randy, you have an update for us on the roads? Yes. The county projects, the county roads.
Yes, the one I failed to put in here was La Passe Road from Lookout Road to the Gore line in La Paz.
Just read them out.
There's the county road that runs through the village of Westmeath. They'll be redoing that street in through there. Where was the other one? Oh, from the Beachburg Road from Buchanan's Pit out to Foresters Falls Road. Plus the one for La Paz Road that I just mentioned, going from Lookout to Gore Line. And there's another one that just borders us, and that's the one that comes from Greenwood Road down to Cemetery Road. But that doesn't affect us too much because it's right at the edge. Be more in your part. Also, there's a couple of pictures of the sidewalks in Westmeath. Okay, so I marked 50 of these sections. That's one of the worst ones you're seeing, but a lot of them are damaged like that would have to be repaired. This other one is showing the accessibility problem for people that would be in wheelchairs or that, because you've literally got to step up at the intersection to get on the sidewalks, and there are 10 of those that would have to be sloped or like redone so that a wheelchair could go up there. I was talking to Mike Beam at the county. We went down and we looked at some of this, and he says the best time to do it is while they're doing the construction in the village, because it would be most cost effective for us, and they would bill us for the work that would be done.
So just on that point, it's not within the approved budget. Once we understand the scope of the cost, we will come back to council to determine is it unassigned, or will we be pulling from reserve to be able to do this work. So with the county going out and tendering, this would be tendered as part of that project. But once we get a good sense of what this will cost, not all of them will be full replacement. Some of it is just dealing with the unevenness, but it makes sense to deal with this issue while the county is there.
Randy, I'll just let Randy finish up, and then I've got to go to Councillor Mackay, and then I'm going to Councillor
So
Jackson.
Mr. Beam is supposed to get back to me with an estimated cost for doing that.
Councillor Mackay?
Randy, will they be putting bike lanes in again on these roads they're doing?
They didn't mention anything about
Because I know when the Queens line is a bike lane now, and
yeah, well, the part they're doing here is in the village of Westmeath, but I don't.
oh,
think
okay, but the ones like La Paz.
On La Paz, they didn't say.
Okay.
Councillor Jackson?
I guess that's my question as well, is to find out whether or not they're going to do, and there's a terminology that they like to use, because if you address it as a bike lane, then the insurance requirements and your monitoring goes up. As far as minimum maintenance standards for a bicycle lane. So they just expand the road and they call it a shared road or something like that. So there is a terminology that they like to use for it. And that would be my question as well. And I agree that this is the best time to do those projects. And even though it is the best time, it's also about time.
Ralston?
Just further comment on the shared road or active transportation lane, or whatever you want to call it. I think we should be pushing them to do at least the portion of Beachburg Road to Buchanan's Pit, because they did do all of Queen's Line last year, and that would be a natural fit to do that road from there to Beachburg.
I'll get talking to Mr. Beam and find out if they're planning on putting the shared roadway on there.
Thank you. Mayor Johnson?
There is an alternative. If we can't come up with the money to do the concrete, we could look at putting asphalt over the concrete putting a lift of asphalt on. Is an alternative in a lot of areas. It's not my recommendation, but it does repair all of those problems.
But we couldn't do that with the,
Curb, no.
wheelchair accessibility
No,
part.
the curb, but you can cut the curb. They have saws that do that you can hire the people to do it. That's just an alternative. It's not my favorite, but it's something should be done this year.
Councillor Mackay?
When they put them in, do they put the curbs, they're in charge of the curbs, right? So they're not our curbs, just the sidewalk. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Opposed? Oh, sorry. Did you have something, Councillor McLaughlin? Still have to vote on it. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on then to item number C, sign reflectivity inspection quote. A recommendation that the Roads, Property and Protection Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve and awarding a 5-year contract in the amount of $5,405.50 annually plus per diems to Advantage Data Collection for the inspection of regulatory and warning signs for the Township of Whitewater Region. Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin. Discussion. Councillor McLaughlin.
Is this a budgeted item?
It is, this is the firm we've been using for a number of years. There is, some savings for a 3-year term or a 5-year term, and since they're the firm we've been working with, staff is confident that we could continue working with them. This has been budgeted. Marcia?
Yeah, we do have a $20,000 line item budget for signs, and that's where I'll go.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. Are you voting? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Any opposition? No, thank you.
No, you answered my most important question.